everyone, I'm Dave Hatch and welcome to the Motorcycle Experience After Show. Thank you for joining us. And this week we have a very interesting guest with us, a good friend of mine, Ken Edick. The reason why I've invited Ken to join us is, for those of you who don't know him, he's been an old friend of mine. We go back a ways, maybe about 25 years.
Longer than I'd like to remember sometimes.
I actually used to work with his brother, Gord, at Global Television back in the mid-'80s when I was hosting a show called Kids Beat. And I think that's how we may have met. Maybe we met out on the road somewhere, but let's, first of all, your resume. How long have you been riding?
Well, I like to tell people since they were coal-fired, but from my teens, the first set of wheels I could get my hands on was a motorcycle.
So I'm going to guess maybe 4 decades?
Be kind. Okay, 4 decades is good.
4 decades? Oh,
yeah.
That's good. All right, so 40 years of riding. The other thing that folks should know is you're a big fan of the Goldwing. How many Goldwings have you owned?
This is my 5th one. Combined mileage on all the wings, 500,000 miles, and an assortment of other touring bikes along the way.
500,000 miles in the saddle. So that is a pretty decent credential. Plus, I know you were a Canada Safety Council instructor, a riding instructor for a dozen years?
Dozen years, yeah. In the Toronto area.
Okay, so this guy has also taught, you know, do the math, 30 students a weekend, 10 weekends, 12 years. A couple of hundred people have learned to ride under.
I don't remember them all, but some of them were outstanding.
Okay, so he's also taught folks how to ride a motorcycle. So I think you're qualified to pass along some sage advice, and that's really sort of my reason for wanting to do these after shows, is to pass along sage advice and get a little more in depth, if you will, than we can during the actual shows on TSN. So what is the one essence, the one piece of advice you would pass along to a motorcyclist after all of these years? What's the one thing that stays with you? If somebody said, tell me one thing, just anything that's going to keep me in the sport, keep me happy, keep me safe.
It's really no different from the people that I got introduced to the very first time teaching them to the people that I ride with today that I may have never ridden before. It's ride your own ride. Everybody has one. We're all at different levels of expertise. I'm not the most expert rider. I may have a lot of hours in the saddle. Doesn't make me the most expert rider.
Right.
But ride your own ride. Everybody has a thrill factor on that ride for the day, the adrenaline rush. We all come through that series of curves the same way. We just want that same rush. How fast we did it could be different as night and day, but as long as we all come out with the same adrenaline rush at the other end, riding your own ride is what it's all about.
You know, that's really interesting. We hadn't talked about this in advance, and I was really curious to see what you would say. And I think that is a fantastic piece of advice because, you know, I started, as you answered the question, I started to think, you know, what are the 1, 2, 3, 5 times I really haven't enjoyed myself over the last 30 years? And, you know, it wasn't that rain storm, you know, coming back from Jackson Hole. It wasn't that gravel road on the way up to Gravenhurst. It wasn't, you know, even being on an uncomfortable motorcycle during a press launch.
Right.
It was the 5 times that I was in over my head trying to keep up with some very good riders.
And I'm not out there to try and concentrate so much that it takes away from why I'm out there, which is I just get a kick from it every time.
Right.
My worst day on the bike beats the best day I ever had in my work life.
Right.
And that's what I'm out there for.
Right. So riding over your head, trying to keep up with a group, no question riding your own ride is very important. Hopefully you're with some folks that will respect that. If you're not able to keep up, or they're going a bit too fast, or even the road's a bit more technical than what you're used to, right?
We have this discussion quite often with the group that I ride with, saying, okay, here's point A, there's point B, this is the route we're doing. If we do get separated along the way, we'll wait a certain point of time up there, but we all expect that we'll arrive there safely. And don't try and do anything in between just because the guy in front of you is riding that curve or that line better than you today.
Yeah.
Could have been your turn yesterday. We just weren't then yesterday.
So I guess the message here when you're riding with a group is definitely get together in advance, talk about where you're going to go, talk about the route, talk about where you may stop along the way. lots of communication. If you're uncomfortable and you're concerned that maybe you're not going to be able to keep up or ride at the pace, maybe you're uncomfortable for whatever reason, or the road itself, voice those concerns. Don't be, you know, this is the one message I like to pass along is we've all been there. You know, don't be afraid to voice your concern. Don't be afraid to speak up and ask respectfully that people treat you respectfully in terms of your level of skill. But I guess that's one element. And the other one is, I guess there's days, do you ever have days where it's just not working for you solo when you're out by yourself?
Yeah, and I can't put a label on as to why it happens, but you'll know when it happens. We've all ridden the same roads time and time again. Maybe it's part of our daily regime or whatever. So there really shouldn't be any surprises along the way, but it's just not clicking today. I'm not shifting when I should. I'm not looking and reading that curve the way I should. And all of a sudden, you can feel. It's just not feeling as way it should. On a good day, it's a no-brainer. You just are on autopilot. It works. When you have to start methodically thinking your way through it, you can't put a label on it. You just have to sit back and realize, maybe I just need to reevaluate what it is. Am I going too fast? Am I thinking it through too much? Or maybe I'm just not in the right mood, and maybe I should just go home and get the car and do it another day.
Yeah, those are the moments when it's not coming together, where I always advise maybe even just pulling over for 10, 15 minutes, grabbing a coffee or something, and sort of resetting whatever it is, your internal clock, your brain. You may be not able to concentrate because you're thinking really about something else. If you're not into the game, take yourself out for a few minutes.
Sure, because if you're riding with a group, others around you will notice that. I mean, if you get to be with the same regular group all the time, we can read each other. We know before that turn indicator is going on when we're lining up for a pass. We can see the gearing down even though the sign tells us something else. So you start to work as a team. And if one player on the team isn't playing right, it just reciprocates right down the line, and it gets its way around.
Yeah. Now, I was just down the street the other day paying a water bill. It wasn't that expensive. The water's cheap here. But I was paying a water bill, and as I was paying it, the gal behind the counter said to me, "Oh, you've got that motorcycle show. I ride a motorcycle." And she said, "I dropped my bike the other day." And I was like, where did that happen? And she said, well, I was just out in the middle of the street making a turn, and I was going slow, and I grabbed the brakes, and I was just so flustered and so, you know, worried about what other people were thinking. And I was just felt so bad for her, and I was like, you know, you have to ride your own ride. Even if you drop your bike, you have to do it on your own speed as far as picking it up and not worrying what the drivers around you are thinking.
Yep.
You know, I really got the sense that it happened because she was worried about the driver behind her, you know, waiting for her to make the turn.
We've all done it, and I've had it happen. It can be that last 3 inches pulling into a gas station. You go to put your foot down. I thought it was just a puddle of water. Turned out it was transmission fluid from some ailing car. Poof, down I went.
Right.
However, I was too embarrassed with everybody else that saw it, and I'm sitting over in the curb saying, I don't know where he went, check over there. It's happened to the best of us.
Yeah.
You know, there's different variations of speed when it might happen. Hopefully you come through it safely, but you can't be overly concerned about what other people think about it. It's a natural tendency. The natural tendency of any motorcycle is it wants to lay down.
Right.
Your lifelong ambition is to keep it upright.
Yeah. Well, I brought that up because there was another example. It just struck me that there was another example where somebody wasn't riding at their own pace. And I got this sense that she was allowing the drivers behind her to push her. Yeah. She got, whether it was true or not, she got freaked out that maybe people were frustrated with her, she wasn't moving quick enough. Yeah. And as a result, the bike went over. So again, riding at your own pace may not necessarily be riding with a group. It may not be riding a back road on your own. It might even be as simple as riding at your own pace when you're in traffic in downtown Prince Edward County, Picton, Ontario.
Yeah, it's thinking we have to realize that we're surrounded by all kinds of variables we cannot control. The weather, the road, the temperament of other people. It's a lot to take on, and it's just, it leaves you vulnerable. It leaves you subjected to feeling that you're the one that's making things be wrong, and it's not necessarily the case.
Right. So I guess in conclusion, and again, thank you for joining us on the after show this week. You know, in conclusion, this has really been about riding your own ride. if you want to be safe and you want to be happy and comfortable, it's really about riding in your own envelope and creating your own space and riding at your own pace. And that rhymes.
Yeah, no. And the thing is, it sounds so ironic that you say you want to ride your own ride, but you want to go out with a group of friends.
Right.
It works. That group works as riding your own ride, and each individual is riding their own ride.
Right.
I can't say it any better than that, even though it seems to be conflictive in itself.
Right. So I encourage you as we get set to ride this summer, give that some thought and deep thoughts. Give it some deep thought. And consider that the next time you head out on the open road. Ken, thank you so much for joining us on the after show. This has been great. And we'll see you again for another after show here at motorcycleexperience.ca. Thanks.
Happy 25th anniversary of the Motorcycle Experience from everyone at Honda.